Now, most of you probably know that there is a process underway for reforming the 510K process. This is for 90+% of the medical devices are regulated by what's called a pre-market clearance. I think there's been a lot of trepidation about what does this mean and what can we look forward to. And just recently they announced the results of the first set of changes that the FDA is going to implement as a result of the work of 2 working groups from last year. And the good news is, I think the message, and it's clear from their emphasis, what they're trying to do is to foster innovation and to clarify a lot of the things that are so confusing to the industry. What they've done is they've punted on some of the very tough issues that are very concerning to all of us, and they've punted it to the Institute of Medicine that's doing an external review of the 510K process, and we'll hear from them in July. I personally am not worried about any of the even the more onerous suggestions that have come out of the working groups. I think ultimately will either flounder in their implementation or not be implemented at all. So I'm actually an optimist about these reforms. I like some of the things that are going on. One of the things that we're wrestling with right now is how do you fit a new device that has no predicate but that's a low or moderate risk device into the world of 510Ks, and the answer is it's very hard. So there was a phone that was recently submitted for a 510K that is used for imaging, and there was no predicate. There was no device in the past that's on the market that resembled it, and that product, even though it was very low risk, was rejected on the first pass. Right? So this is an example where logic was superseded by the interpretation of a regulation that really needs to change. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the practical application of this regulatory world that we're in as a device, and I'll use my system, the Sotera system, as an example. So there are 3 components to 3 potentially regulated or unregulated elements of every system. There's the component level. Here is a processor that we happen to use. Not regulated. You don't have to prove safety and effectiveness. You don't have to necessarily prove that you've developed this processor under quality system requirements. But I do. I mean, I have to make sure that my system is safe and effective and it is developed under QSR regulations. My accessories, like a calibration cuff, absolutely have to be regulated by the same standard by which I am going to submit and hopefully clear my device. That also applies with software that, in this case, is dedicated on a server. It's part of the system. It's going to be regulated as 510K. Gets a little fuzzier at the back end. So it starts, it's clear here, fuzzy there. So if I have a mobile device, and we are going to operate on mobile devices, the degree to which it has to be regulated depends on a number of things. Is it my device? If it's my device and I designed it to be used with a Visi, absolutely. It has to be regulated with a 510K. If Airstrip comes out with an app that my device is compatible with, but so are other devices, I'm off the hook, but they're on the hook. So fundamentally, it's whoever is designing and has control over the claims of a particular device, that's who's responsible for getting regulatory clearance on that particular device. Now, so far, the iPhone or the PDA has not, in this scenario, would not be regulated. And so let's talk about that, the mobile device in mHealth. That's obviously a key, I think, to being able to really leverage new technology in the healthcare domain efficiently. And here you see sort of the spectrum of mHealth technology utilizing mobile devices. So on the left, we have the fitness wellness area. No question that these are areas that the FDA just doesn't regulate. And here's an app for heart rate. I was in the hospital the other day, and a nurse couldn't wait to show me her iPhone that when you put it up to your chest would record your heart rate. Well, the claim here, the intended use of the manufacturers, is not to care for a patient, it's to be able to check their heart rate in a wellness model. And so because that's the intended use, the FDA is not going to try and regulate it. Let's move down. Let's move up the evolutionary chain. Now you've got a device here, which is a pill phone, which is a 510K regulated device. But the phone isn't regulated. The FDA has done a pretty good job of not regulating, up to this point, mobile devices that are primarily telecom related and have focused on the app, on the application. The next one A little more sophisticated yet is the new Airstrip cardiology system, where you're now capturing vital sign information. The reason that it's regulated, however, is that that's information that can be used as decision support in real-time treatment and care of a patient. That fits loosely into the definition of a medical device. But still, it's the phone here, or the iPad, is not deemed to be an accessory necessarily. It's a telecom device. Gets a little fuzzier at the end, though. Now, here's a device that a European company is going to submit to the FDA, they say this year. Now, what's different about it, unlike Richard's company, which is using a Bluetooth communication, there's a physical link. This device right here is the glucose meter, and it plugs into the phone. So this comes back again to this whole issue of intended use. If that device is intended to be used with a phone at all times and physically connected, there's a very good possibility the FDA is going to regulate that device, that phone, which is a very bad move, because phones are always changing, and obviously your manufacturer of the phone isn't going to be very cooperative and happy with you. That one's a question mark. We don't really know where that's going to go. But that's more or less the spectrum that we're dealing with here in mHealth.